I'm so pissed off by anonymous who write their real stories, but hide behind anonymous people because they're afraid of condemnation, like any normal person like me. But all the questions we ask on the internet are ordinary life situations. And what the fuck are you hiding? I was born in the Soviet Union in 1981 in the city of Tashkent. My grandmother, grandfather, and sister-grandmother, all on my mother's side, lived in their own big house. My mother married my father, and they both began to live in the house of my grandparents. When they started to build 6-story houses in the city, the house of my grandparents was demolished, and my parents, then I was born, were given a two-room apartment. My grandparents, also a two-room apartment in the same house, and my grandmother's sister, a one-room apartment, but 2 stops away by trolley bus. But both grandmothers and grandfathers exchanged their apartments too, and one for a 3-room apartment, where the 3 of them lived. My grandmother, grandfather, and grandmother's sister. 3-room apartment. It's huge. When I came to Moscow at the age of 19, I was puzzled how people can live here in small apartments, in such conditions where there is no larger, where there is a small hallway, where there is no large balcony in the length of the whole apartment, where the bathroom is only a bathtub, without a room, and in Tashkent, the bathroom is probably the size of the one in Moscow. In a 3-room apartment, my grandfather made a brick partition in the larger, and it turned out an additional room, in which I mostly hanged out. It could fit a grand piano, a wardrobe, a chest of drawers, a desk and a bed. This is to the question of the size of that room. And in a larger, from which they tore off a part for my room, would fit 2 pianos and 2 chests of drawers, wardrobes, etc. When my grandfather died, in this neutered larger, 50 people fit into the memorial of my grandfather at the table. It's me to the fact that, in fact, that 3 is a 5 years. And both apartments were in a very good area. Whoever suddenly lives there and reads this, he knows that the apartment on Darkhan is a very expensive apartment by the standards of Tashkent. Grandma and grandfather died when I was at school. Then my grandmother's sister died, and the whole family, mum, father, brother, and I moved to their 3-room apartment. The apartment of 2 in the same entrance was empty. Sometimes parents let the tenants in there. In general, at the age of 19, I went to Moscow with my classmate husband, my brother, 2 years younger than me, married 6 years later, and began to live in that 2-room apartment. He and his wife gave birth to a child, then a second one. And it turned out that my brother was in debt, which his parents did not know about. In one of my posts I wrote how my brother came to me, or rather, not to me, but for earnings, but he stopped at my place, putting me in front of the fact, lived for my husband and me, only slept and ate, and did not work anywhere. But somewhere the money was taken from him for the return trip and for gifts to his family. As for debts, when my brother worked in Moscow in the sweat of his face, he said that he wanted to sell his apartment, which, by the way, was registered to his mother, and buy a 2-room apartment with this money is also nearby in Tashkent. The prices for apartments can go like this. On Darkhan, a 2-room house costs 6 million rubles, and across the street, the same girl, to which it takes 3 minutes to walk, will cost 2 million. And my brother wanted to sell the apartment, not to help me. I worked without my housing in Moscow 6 days a week for 14 to 15 hours. No, but to sell that expensive apartment. To buy an apartment cheaper right away, and spend the difference on my debts, send part of what is left to me, and keep the rest. He then threw a phrase that still makes me sick, and 11 years have passed since that moment. Katyusha doesn't mind me selling the apartment. Katyusha is his wife, which has nothing to do with my grandfather and grandmother's apartment. Everything burned to me then. I immediately remembered how my father told me when I was 18 years old that if you were going to leave, we will sell the apartment too and share it between you and your brother. I've been driving for 11 years. My brother lives in the apartment that was promised to sell, and then I'm so tense, realizing that he's going to sell this house now, and I'll be left without shit. I called my mom and said that if you can, help me too, sell that apartment, since my brother is ready to sell it and buy cheaper housing for himself. The apartment is registered to mom, so that I also get something. At first, my father started talking to shit. I didn't talk to him. I just know. I didn't write a post about my father either, as well as about my brother's arrival. If anyone is interested, that I divide the inheritance, although my parents are alive. And in general let him come, then let me come with my husband and live here. Then I asked my mother, okay, I'll come. Will you give me a separate apartment too? And I asked about the inheritance. My grandfather and grandmother promised me this apartment, so why does Dad dispose of it? I understand that promises and reality are different things. It was just my way of influencing my mother at that time. I didn't hope for anything at all. As a result, my mother sold a two-room apartment. I don't know for how much. I know that my brother also bought himself a two-room apartment, paid off his debts, and what's left is $10,000 for 2014. They sent me. It was 500,000 rubles in our money. With this money, my husband and I bought a house in the village. I always wanted to live on the land, in the area where my grandparents lived. When we were small, it was 20 to 30 years old, before moving to Tashkent, when my father died. My brother moved to his mother in 3 with his wife and children, and they are now renting out their apartment. His wife works at a private school as a teacher, where my mother arranged her through acquaintances. My mother also paid for my brother's wife's university while she was studying. Because my mother put her there, my brother's wife herself worked as a waitress and did not enter the budget. And her parents could not sponsor her studies. And her brother sits at home, kick sticks. He is a rentier, works by renting out his housing. And today I called my mom because today is the anniversary of my grandfather's death. My mother's father. I thought we'd talk about him, about how Mom and me are doing. But Mom started saying that I need to find a notary. My brother will send me what documents I need. And I didn't understand. What am I doing? Refuse the inheritance, so Mom is still alive. Refuse the apartment, so it's not mine. And I don't understand. Maybe after 1991, shares in the countries of the former USSR and now the CIS were automatically given, and I have to give up my share. I thought shares only in Russia, or maybe, suddenly, my grandmother initially wrote me the apartment when my grandfather died, or what? I guess I'll still do what my mom wants from me, but I don't know what they want from me yet. Mom ornately says that I need to take a birth certificate, a certificate of previous marriage, and divorce from a notary. Write a paper, I ask. What kind of paper? What to write? What can a notary say? What am I not pretending to? Send me your email, where you should send me a list of documents. I don't give my telegram to my relatives, otherwise they'll fuck up. I send a text message address, and I have these questions. 1. If it turns out that there is my share in the apartment, or, what is even cooler, the apartment is registered by my grandmother on me, and it stands, I just Googled. 8 million Russian rubles can cost that apartment, at least in that area. What should I do? Damn, I know what advice I would give to a stranger. But the thing here is that it's easy to give the right advice. I'll probably do what is expected of me, damn. If only the apartment is not registered to me. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep for years. Probably, too. If it turns out that only a formal waiver of inheritance claims is required from me, and the notary asks for 5,000 rubles or more, and I tell them, my mother and brother, that it is expensive for me, is it petty? I was waiting for my mom to send me by mail what she wants from me, but it's been 6 hours and nothing. As they say, I flashed. I remembered when my brother, and I was small, he's 2 years younger than me, and our parents gave us 2 identical sweet gifts for the new year. He allegedly ate his gift, and then went to beg for my candy. I was indignant, they say. You had exactly the same gift. It's not my fault that you ate yours earlier. And then Mom interfered that you are an older sister. You have to share with your brother. He is offended, although he ate his own before. And then it turned out that my brother did not eat his gift, but hid it, ate half of mine. And when I ran out, he happily devoured his own. And yes, he could not share. He is small. And it was his gift. I told my mom then that it wasn't fair. And she started laughing. Oh, how funny it is. Hid it, cunning. Well, sometimes the owners of animals are tidated when their dog or cat snatched something from the table. And you don't be so angry. Then I remembered when my parents suddenly began to press on me. I was 9 years old, and my brother was 7, saying that if you took the money, no one would scold you. Tell me where they were. It turned out that the money from my father's salary was missing. I don't remember exactly, but I think 25 rubles on one piece of paper. I couldn't understand what they wanted from me at all. Yes, I knew where my parents put the money. But why should I take it? It's wrong. As a result, it turned out that the money was stolen by my brother, whom, of course, did not think of my grandfather when he saw that I was already sobbing when my parents interrogated me, "Where is the money?" And I say that I do not know, but they continue everything, said. Addressing my brother saw all this scene, but was silent. "Where did you hide the money? Say immediately." And then my brother roared and showed. He rolled 25 rubles into a tube, tied it with black threads and hid it in the toilet behind the toilet. I'm not sure if anyone would have found them. Even washing the floors in the toilet 3 times a day, the toilet stood on a small protrusion. Then I periodically checked behind the toilet if there was anything there. And one day I found toilet paper rolled into a ball. I immediately gave it to my mother. Mum asked my brother why he unwinded the toilet paper and hid it behind the toilet. He replied, "What if all the paper runs out at home? And then I will have my own." And Mum and Dad also laughed, moving, "Ah, what a cunning one." With sweets, he constantly begged me when he had exactly the same thing. Once I triumphed, because I gave him some of my sweets. Again, under the pressure of his mother about his younger and since he ate his own, and he once again hid his. But it was summer and it was hot. In Tashkent, the temperature could be 40 degrees, but there was no air conditioner at home. All his sweets melted, he smeared them and sobbed that the chocolates became liquid. I thought his parents would scold him. His lie, here it is. But the parents began to laugh. What a funny, sloppy, cunning baby he is. When we grew up, then he learned to share and not devour the last pancake or pancakes. Then I thought what a good brother he was. And I even forgot those situations with sweets from a very early childhood as I thought. But now it seems to me that he did it. I'm talking about the last pancake to show his parents how good he is. In general, returning to the topic of the apartment, I received a file by mail. I attached a picture below, like. I have to certify this here. In Russia, with a notary with my data, I attached this paper below. I only covered up my mother's last name and apartment address. To my surprise, it turns out that I have a share just in the 3. I thought that if somewhere and something of mine could be, then in the 2, where we lived with our parents and brother, which they sold. These 2 days I struggle with different feelings. From, that I cut off a rag and didn't sew a sleeve to my pussy. And I was always like that for my parents, too. Well, what were you waiting for? You didn't want to come there, visit them. You wanted to run away from them and ran away. Don't fucking whine. My husband says you decide for yourself. Do you need it? You never expected anything from them anyway. Forget it and forget it. They also wrote to me in the comments that they would not love me anymore from my good gestures. I also thought about it, whether I was really waiting for approval or love. And I still didn't understand. I've always adhered to the rule that you can't demand from people what they can't think of offering you, like flowers from your husband. If you say you want flowers, he gives you. But it's not the same as if he gave you flowers himself. Some gifts from people, birthday greetings when they forgot about your birthday, and you remind. And here, it turns out that my mother just doesn't think that my family, would never hurt this money, and that since you want to leave the apartment inside your family without me, would you like to offer me at least something, since you rent out the second apartment? And then I begin to feel guilty, and I start reproaching myself for pettiness and mercantilness. But I can't get rid of the resentment against both parents, at my father who died and didn't try to apologize for his attitude towards me. I'm not offended by my brother, because after he came to work and lived with us with her husband, and behaved the way he behaved, I realized that he's just shit, and it's pointless and stupid to be offended by shit. I also, on my mind, looked at the prices for apartments on the same street, and right in the same house where they live, and where I have a share, exactly the same layout, the same 3, and I wish I hadn't looked. An apartment without repair, in terms of Russian rubles, starts from 12 million rubles. The day before I googled approximately in that area, and I was given 8 million. But this is not little, especially when you have 0. Well, it's never fun at all, especially when my mother wrote to me that will reimburse you for legal expenses. A meme immediately came to my mind. Fuck. Thank you. Fuck you. In general, 2 personalities fought in me, a reasonable man and an ordinary sheep. The sheep did win. I will go to the notary, but only in April, because I'm working now without days off for now, and I'm in a hurry from Tashkent. I don't even understand why such a hurry. Either my brother got into some muddy scheme again, and they want to urgently sell the apartment, or they are afraid that my mother will die soon, and here I'll draw with claims to housing. No one tells me anything, and somehow I doubt that this piece of paper of mine will help them a lot. In Uzbekistan, it may just turn out to be a Filkin's letter. On the other hand, there, as far as I remember, and as some commentators confirmed to me, everything is decided for money and through acquaintances, and my wonderful relatives could well marry their Kochushotomi without a Polev, so that she would sign what they all need. But since they didn't do it, it means that they still need these actions of mine. Maybe this paper, which I attached at the bottom of the text, was given to them in 2020 for this date, is written on the piece of paper when they wanted to do everything without me. But apparently they didn't succeed, but these are just my guesses. And I hate all these places present so much. I go to the hospital when I realize that I will definitely die differently, and here it's not for myself to cut out time and nerves, spending a day off. It's still an additional stress for me. I don't know if it's still my laziness to go and prove my own, or the fear of swearing although I live far away and just can't communicate with anyone for years, quarrel and forget. Well, or not completely forget, but not communicate, for sure, or the desire to be good for my mother or for myself, although I kind of know that I'm a good person, I hope, and hoo-hoo-hoo, so as not to jinx. Or I understand the uselessness of proving that something there can really be mine, especially after reading the comments, where a person really went through something similar, and I realize that everything is useless. Sometimes it seems that getting bogged down in endless reflections is just a part of life. I often think about how easy it is to forget about what is really important if you allow yourself to immerse yourself in trifles. Yes, communicating with people is great, but sometimes I feel that it is better to withdraw and just watch everything from the outside. I have more than once felt the desire to be good, both for my mother and for myself, although, in fact, I am well aware that I am a good person. At least I try to be one. I sometimes sit and think, am I not good enough? Tfuhu. So as they say, but still this feeling sometimes hurts me. Reading the comments of other people who share their experiences, I begin to understand how useless it is to constantly try to prove something. Many of them have gone through similar situations and came to the conclusion that sometimes it is better to let go of their aspirations for proof. After all, life is too short to waste it on unnecessary clarifications. All this talk about something being mine sometimes seems empty. Yes, indeed, we can say that the desire for proof often overshines more important things in life. Instead of holding on to it, it is better to focus on the present moment and find joy in what we have now. Letting go of obsessive thoughts that we need to prove something to someone, we can begin to appreciate the relationships and experiences that make our lives richer and happier.